Our top story is about Trump's hit list. Number one on his hit list is Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky. Number two is Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. And EU? Well, that's on Trump's twist list. Here's what I mean. Trump's election victory, it's put both Ukraine and Canada under the spotlight. While Ukraine's reliance on American support to defend against Russia could face unexpected strain under Trump, Canada could be drawn into renewed trade tensions and defense disputes under Trump 2.0. Meanwhile, Europe watches closely as Trump's foreign policy promises a new twist in America's relations with the world. What are these twists? Let's do a deep dive. Let's start with Ukraine. While Zelensky praised Trump's impressive win on election night, there's skepticism over whether Trump will extend the same generosity as far as military assistance to Ukraine is concerned. Trump has repeatedly promised that he can end the war in Ukraine. He's gone as far as promising to end the war within a day. But there's little clarity on what that would mean for Kyiv, and the implications are heavy. Would the new Trump administration pressure Zelensky to accept a quick but costly deal with Russia? Experts say it's quite possible. They say the new Trump-led White House might withhold military support to push Ukraine towards making concessions. And to that, the fact that Zelensky and Trump have had a difficult history and the anxieties only increase. You see, back in 2019, a controversial phone call between the two sparked impeachment proceedings against Trump. In it, Trump allegedly pressured Zelensky to investigate his political rivals by withholding aid. Although they appeared cordial in a meeting later that year, Trump has since blamed Zelensky and outgoing President Joe Biden for the war in Ukraine. That's without mentioning Putin. This is why some analysts say that Trump's return could bring setbacks to Ukraine's fight against Russia. As far as Russia is concerned, a Trump victory could be seen as a potential opening for Russia to press its advantage, especially if US military support to Ukraine wanes. Trump's apparent desire for a rapid deal could make the situation even more precarious for Kyiv. As the war situation in Ukraine grows more intense, President Volodymyr Zelensky is said to be worried. Reports suggest that he fears that when Trump will take charge in January, the steady stream of US weapons and financial aid might stop, leaving Ukraine vulnerable against Russian forces. Remember, we're now looking at a very different America, a Trump America that may not be willing to provide the same support that Ukraine has received under Biden. For Zelensky, that raises the stakes. Could this be the end of the gravy train of US weapons and money? Meanwhile, outgoing President Joe Biden is rushing to send arms to Ukraine as if he's bracing for a drastic policy shift. What does that say about America's support for Ukraine? Does Biden expect Trump to cut back on aid when he takes the chair? Could it be Biden's last-ditch effort to shore up Ukraine's defenses? Does he anticipate that Trump may cut back on American aid? All signs point to it. As far as Europe is considered, its leaders are worried. After all, Trump has made some bold declarations. Trump's ambition to end the Ukraine war could become his defining foreign policy move. Trump has suggested that he will speak with Russian President Vladimir Putin. In fact, on Sunday, a Washington Post report did say that a call had already taken place between the US President-elect and Russian President. But by afternoon on Monday, the Kremlin denied this report, calling it completely false and fiction. Kremlin said that no such communication had taken place between Trump and Putin, raising several questions on the table. Earlier, I spoke with Russian affairs analyst Fred Weir on what this means. Listen to this.
I think there are a lot of red flags in this story, and the biggest one is the nature of the Kremlin denial. It's absolutely airtight and categorical. You know, often in these matters, two sides will dispute what was said or when or some other details. In this case, the Kremlin spokesman said it never happened. It's pure fiction. Now, that's extremely unusual because there's no reason why Donald Trump, the president-elect of the United States, shouldn't call up Putin to talk about things, and Putin has said he congratulated Trump on his victory and said that he's ready to talk. So there's nothing wrong with the idea of them having a conversation. So I think we're probably dealing with some misinformation.
Now, we don't know if a call did take place between the two, but even if Trump and Putin discuss a peace deal and it happens without Ukraine's involvement, what will that mean for Ukraine's future? Remember, Trump has in fact suggested that he will speak with Putin. He's also repeatedly vowed to end the war in Ukraine within 24 hours. It sounds decisive, but here's the question. Does this plan serve American interests or Ukrainian interests, or could it in fact play directly into Russia's hands? Remember, Trump won't be inaugurated until January. He would still need to assemble his cabinet, which in itself is a complex task. Will Putin or Zelensky even be ready to negotiate peace by then? It's too soon to say. Let's turn our attention to Canada now. Trump's return to power could mean a tough road ahead for Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Remember, Trump's policies disrupted US-Canada relations in the past, challenging long-standing alliances and trade partnerships. Now, as Trump reasserts his America First ideology, Canada's economic reliance on the United States makes it especially vulnerable. According to reports, Canada sends about 75% of its exports to the United States. And Trump's proposed 10% tariff on imports that's already raised alarms in Ottawa. After Trump's victory, Trudeau congratulated Trump, calling for a strong friendship between the two countries. But privately, Trudeau's administration is reportedly preparing for what could be an even more challenging period than before. According to analysts, Canada may face trade wars, demands for increased defense spending, and cross-border issues that could stress its economy. Also, let's not forget that Trump has previously criticized Trudeau. He's called Trudeau a far-left lunatic and two-faced. Trudeau also appeared to mock Trump during a meeting of NATO leaders in 2019. For now, officials from Trudeau's party are reportedly treading carefully, wary of any statements that might provoke Trump and complicate ties further. But beyond economics, a new Trump administration could put Canada's defense strategy under scrutiny as well. As a NATO member, Canada might be pressured to increase military spending, shifting focus from domestic priorities. We've spoken about this. Experts warn that if Trump's isolationist approach strengthens, Trudeau government could be caught between competing global powers. What's more, Trump's proposed mass deportations of undocumented immigrants could also have consequences, driving more migrants towards Canada and straining its housing and social services. Former Immigration Minister Jason Kenney has already warned of a potential crisis that could test Canada's refugee policies. Evidently, the coming months will test Trudeau. Behind the scenes, Trudeau is facing an uphill battle politically. Polls suggest he will lose to a conservative challenger, that's Pierre Poilievre, in an election set for within the next year. Plus, there is domestic issue of economic challenges, diplomatic rows. I'm talking about Canada's rows with China and India. All these issues together mean that any disruptions from US policy will only magnify the issues Trudeau faces at home. Ultimately, as Trump prepares to assume power, the stakes grow for these leaders. Will Trump's America First agenda leave allies with fewer options, or will it lead them into making unprecedented concessions? For Zelensky and Trudeau, the clock is ticking on decisions that could reshape the course of their country's futures. Who will come out on top in Trump's New World Order, and who will find themselves on the receiving end of his hit list? Only time will tell.